The start of the great space race, the USSR launched Sputnik into orbit, and since then, humans have launched thousands of other satellites into space. But there's a new concern that all of that space junk, the decommissioned satellites, could be putting you at risk. And here to talk about this rather unusual problem is our friend and tech expert, Dave Hatter. So we meet again, Dave, to talk about things tech-related. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of this problem, though, there's something that we want to show the viewers right here, and it is a special map that this shows all of the satellites that are actually in the air right now. This is a live map of all the man-made objects. Look at the number of them. How feasible, Dave, is it to track all of these?
It's totally insane, isn't it, John? And hey, as always, thanks for having me. That map is really quite shocking when you realize the full scale of the stuff that's floating around up there above Earth at the moment.
All right, now this interest we have in hacking satellites and that sort of thing, it happened because a security expert, with permission, was able to get into and use a decommissioned satellite. And what does it mean when you look at the number of them and that this security expert was able to do that? What does it mean to be able to do that?
Yeah, John, I think you're making such an important point there just for the sheer scope of the objects that are up there. So these researchers, they did have permission, but it does demonstrate that you've got a lot of satellites that when they near end of life, in theory, they go to a graveyard orbit and are completely decommissioned. They found a satellite named ENIC F1R. It's a Canadian broadcasting company satellite. It was launched in 2005, designed for a 15-year lifespan. And it kind of demonstrates that these things are often designed with reliability and durability in mind, not security. They were able to access the satellite and broadcast a live stream from a different security conference at the security conference they were at, just to show this sort of scale of the problem that we're dealing with here when you have thousands of these objects up there and the fact that someone could take one over. Now, and they pointed out that if you have enough power on Earth, you can theoretically override whatever's being broadcast to one of these satellites and take it over. Now, this wasn't a military satellite. Obviously, security is a much higher priority there, but it does point out an interesting problem from a propaganda standpoint and just the ability to disrupt things here on Earth.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, is how the average person is affected by this. Sometimes you might not be able to trust what you see. Is that the primary thing that we're going to see with this?
I think that's definitely part of it, John, because there was an example with an HBO satellite that was taken over once. But I think also as we rely more on satellites for services on Earth, like GPS and that kind of thing, it's potential, not only the misinformation or disinformation and propaganda aspects of it, but the possibility that you could take over a satellite or disable a satellite, kind of a denial of service attack on a satellite that's providing some important service here on Earth. Again, GPS springs to mind because that's primarily driven by satellites. So it's an interesting problem. I'm glad that these researchers are demonstrating, that this is a thing, and that hopefully manufacturers building these satellites in the future will put more of a priority on security as opposed to just throwing the stuff up there and hoping that when it eventually dies, it couldn't be used for some harmful purpose.
Yeah, and more satellites are going up as people try to increase the range of internet access and that sort of thing. So it is something definitely keep an eye on. All right, Dave, thank you so much for joining us and talking about this rather unusual problem.
Yeah, always my pleasure, John. And if I don't get to talk to you again, it's been a pleasure. I hope you have a long, happy, healthy retirement.
Oh, thank you very much. And if not, you can always robocall me, man.
I'll send you some phishing emails, John.
There we go. All right,
Text.
Thank you, Dave.